video, I'm going to look at how to put together a program to improve speed. So my second goal is here at the top. So my second goal is to improve my 40-yard dash from 5.5 to 5.3 seconds over the next 6 weeks. I will retest after 3 weeks and after 6 weeks to see if I'm improving. So the same process needs to be applied. So we need to look at the principles of training and we need to apply each of them to this program. So in the table we can see the principles are on the left hand side. So specificity, progressive overload, reversibility, tedium, warming up and cooling down, and rest and recovery. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that the program that we are designing is specific to the goal that we're trying to improve. So in order for me to get faster, what exercises should I be doing? Now, when you go and research this, you're going to find lots of different examples of exercises that you can do. It's a little bit more complicated than if you were looking to improve your strength or power or muscular endurance or even flexibility. You're going to get lots of exercises such as cleans and hang cleans and squats and so on. And my advice would be, if you were to do a program like this, maybe you should focus on that as a HRF component in muscular strength, or even a PRF component as power. Other things that you could focus in on are your technique. So doing exercises that are going to help improve your running technique. And again, this is a possibility that you could look at, especially if you're doing something like sprinting. For this one, I'm just going to focus in on more general exercises that a soccer player or a rugby player or even a basketball player could do. So when I researched it, I found exercises such as resistance sprints, hill sprints, parachute runs, ladders, and bounding. Now, all of these exercises are ones that you can perform in school or even at home. So make sure that the exercise that you pick, you have the equipment for, and that you're going to be able to perform them in school, during class, or at home on your own. The second thing we need to consider when we're looking at specificity is the training zone that we're going to be working in. So if you remember, when we looked at training zones, for speed you need to be working at max intensity. Okay, so you need to be in that anaerobic zone. There's no point in going at 50 or 60% if you're trying to improve your speed. Yes, you can do it at a slower pace if you're focusing on technique, but if we want to improve our overall speed in a 6-week period, well, then we need to be doing it at full intensity. Next principle is progressive overload. So again, when we're designing the program, there should be small changes as you go through the 6 weeks. Little increases in the amount of repetitions that you're doing, maybe the distances that you're covering, or even the resistance that's being applied. Okay, and again, over the 6-week period, we don't have to do it every week, but at least every second week we should be seeing small changes to make sure we're overloading the program. Next one is reversibility. So how many times are we going to train a week? There shouldn't be a long enough distance between each training session that would allow you to, I guess, go backwards. If we don't train frequently enough, well, then we're not going to see the results that we're looking for. Tedium, again, looking at variety. Again, this shouldn't be an issue unless you're an advanced trainer. If you retest after 3 weeks and you haven't made any improvements whatsoever, well, then you might want to take a look at this one. You might want to change the exercises that you're doing. You might want to look at the distances or even the resistance that's been applied and made small changes just to make sure that you're still progressing. Warming up and cooling down. Again, I would have a general warm-up that you can use for each of the 3 programs and include that as a separate image in part B. Last one then is rest and recovery. So for rest, if you want to work at max intensity, well, then you need to allow yourself the maximum amount of recovery to make sure that you're able to perform each repetition at full intensity. So rest is really important when we're looking at a program like speed. When we're looking at recovery, again, methods that we talked about, we can track our sleep, we can look at our nutrition, we can look at our pre-workout or even post-workout meal. Again, this is all up to the individual student as to how much effort you want to put into this particular principle for each program. So the research has been carried out here, and now what we need to do is we need to go and put this into a program. So here is the program that I have put together to improve speed over a 6-week period. And again, I've tried to take into consideration as many different principles as I can when I was designing this program. So up here on the top we have frequency. So again, once, possibly twice a week should be enough. And again, this is taking into consideration your reversibility principle. Intensity, again, max intensity. There is no other intensity that we can work at to improve our speed, and we should be in our anaerobic zone. Okay, so working at maximum intensity, getting the heart rate as high as possible for each repetition. On the left hand side then are the exercises that I've picked. So again, taking into consideration what you can do in school, what equipment is available to you. So I've picked these exercises based on that. So first one is resisted sprints, next one is hill sprints, third one is known as a bounding drill, and the fourth one then is parachute runs. Again, this is equipment that I have in school, so any student is welcome to use it during the double class on a Thursday. Next column here I have my coaching points. So how do I perform each of these drills? Okay, what are the things that I'm focusing on? Again, we research them, we look up how to perform them properly and take a read through these. Again, you're probably not going to get as much detail in as you can find. Pick out some of the key points. There's no point in picking 20 key points for each of these drills. Just focus in on a few and try and make sure you do them correctly. Over here then we have our program. So I've split up into 3 2-week blocks with a deloading week in the middle, so technically it'll be a 7-week program. So for weeks 1 and 2, for example, here for resisted sprints, I'm going to do 30 meters with 10 meters at level 1 resistance by 5. So 5 repetitions of this. Okay, if somebody's doing something like resisted sprints, it's quite hard to make sure that your partner is adding the same resistance every week. And if we want to progressively overload the program, then perhaps the resistance should be different. So maybe the resistance should be moving up as we go through the weeks. So as you can see here, in weeks 1 and 2 it's level 1, weeks 3 and 4 is level 2, week 5 and week 6 then is level 3. Again, this is just an option for students where if there's a couple of people doing the same program, you could sit down and come up with what level 1, 2 and 3 might look like. So explain in detail what level 1 resistance is, what level 2 resistance is, and what level 3 resistance is. Okay, and then your partner, when they're holding the resistance harness, they should hopefully help them to apply the same amount of resistance for each week. Okay, and then obviously moving it up for level 2 and then moving it up again for level 3. I've included a deloading week here then after week 4, and again a deloading week we said isn't a week off. A deloading week is a week at lower intensity. Okay, and so for example here, instead of doing 30 meters with resistance, what we're doing here for the deloading week is we're doing 30-meter marches with level 3 resistance. Okay, so basically what that means is we're not actually sprinting at all, we're just doing marches and we're focusing in more on technique rather than the intensity that we're doing it at. So focusing in on our arm action, our knee drive, our midfoot strike and so on. So I've gone through the same process then for each of the different exercises here on the left, or on the left even. Hill sprints, couple of points on how we're going to perform them. Again, I'm going to progressively overload it as I move through the weeks. Same with the bounding drill, same with the parachute runs. You might notice here I've only included 3 exercises for my deloading week. Again, it's low intensity, it doesn't have to be the same. We don't have to do the same exercises, but it should be at a lower intensity to the other weeks. Down the very bottom then I have taken into consideration what rest we should be taking. So again, I didn't just come up with it, I went and researched it. So when you go and research the rest that you should be taking between repetitions for a speed program, you'll come up with things like 1:3, 1:5, 1:8, okay? And you need to pick which one is most appropriate for your level. So remember that we said for speed, you need to have quite a long rest. You need to be performing them at full intensity. In order to do this, well, then you need to fully recover, or as close to full recovery as possible between each repetition. So what 1:5 means is whatever length it takes you, for example here, to do a 30-meter resisted sprint, well then your recovery should be 5 times that. Okay, so let's just say, again, just for example, it takes 15 seconds or 20 seconds, whatever it might be, for your resisted sprint. Well, then you multiply that by 5, and then that is what your recovery should be. Okay, so let's just go with 20 seconds. So if it takes 20 seconds to perform this repetition, well, then your rest before the next one should be 1:20. Okay, and that's how you figure out your rest. Again, if we have any questions on this, we can ask in class. Hopefully this will help you when you're putting together your program on speed.